they've been waiting for this ship because they're going to be the survivors of the human race. And they basically then, the computer tells them what's actually going on, which is that the computer has figured out that aliens are about to wipe out humanity, which they do, because we've learned how to destroy celestial bodies. And there's only the handful of humans on the space station and the couple of people that are on the ship that can basically repopulate it. And the computer's like, my job is to make sure that humanity survives because we have the wherewithal to actually see our own extinction and get out of its way. And the dude's like, no, I'm not going to do that. He was like, if we're going to go out as a species, we're going out as a species. And he blows up his ship and takes off the rest of humanity. And I'm like, that was the wildest movie. And I'm still like, but it was so bad, it came around and became good. Like,
it's one of those that looped around.
Yeah, but like, I would never tell people, let's actually watch this movie. But if you want to torture yourself with some really bad British acting and some really subpar special effects that's not even fun like Red Dwarf, watch Somnus. Not great.
Somnus?
Somnus. Yes, Somnus.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's Thursday night. We've been live for almost 2 minutes. Hey, you are doing the best possible thing you could be doing on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. You are hanging out with the American Sci-Fi Classics Track. If you're watching this and it's not Thursday night, you're still doing the best possible thing you could be doing. We are watching us. Yes, we are on video, and also starting last week, we have an audio version too. Links for that will be up everywhere, so you don't have to use your eyeballs. You can just use your freaking ears. And
that works perfect for me.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. See, Tom is pre-podcast ready.
Yes.
Yes.
Already. All we have for Mr. Tom Morris from the Good Bad Nerdy Pod is an image which vibrates weirdly when he speaks.
Yes.
Tom, say something for the people who are watching.
Greetings.
Look at that.
Joe makes that sound so much dirtier than it actually He's vibrating oddly when he speaks. And I'm like,
vibrating oddly, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what you do in the privacy of your own podcast.
Right. That's your own business. That's why you have your own podcast to do.
Yes, that's true.
That's what, when me and Gary started doing these, they're like, look, me and Gary said, well, okay, now we get to vibrate oddly, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, I get that words today.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Lynn.
Here's what we're going to do. What we're doing is we're talking about, once again, quickly canceled sci-fi TV shows. And there are tons. We aren't going to get to them all. We've done this panel before. And I would say that we would try not to mention things we've mentioned already. But, you know.
We don't remember.
I don't remember. And also, I would have had to have gone back to check the previous episode, and that would have required effort. Gary, it's not really my thing.
No.
Effort is not my thing.
Always go forward, don't go backwards, unless we're talking about time travel.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go around
back,
the
darling.
horn.
It distracts from the now.
Yes, thank you. Let's go around the horn and introduce everybody. One internet to my left, my other half, let's see if I can there. People that are listening to this are going to have no idea what's happening.
They have no idea about the visual pun that's happening right now. Like,
my other half, the other half of the man with two brains, and also the dead man who doesn't wear plaid, I guess, since we're talking about Steve Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Mitchell.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and we lost Tom again.
Tom's gone again.
Oh, no.
And one internet south of us, Shaun, introduce thyself, please.
Thouest for thee.
Okay, here we go.
We're
No,
off to a stellar start.
I'm Shaun. I'm a fan. I do artwork. I make stuff with my wife at Pop Cycle Bowels, and you can come see us at DragonCon. And I love to be guests, be a guest at the American Sci-Fi Classic Room every year. We always have a couple panels that we do. And by the way, guys, I have a new game show for us to add on to double up with trifling. So we'll talk about that more off panel. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I got a good idea.
I'm still trying to figure out a way for us to do the 25,000 geek pyramid.
If we just
we would need a big room.
Yeah,
we're gonna make it work. We'll make it work.
Yeah, but I got an idea. I'll talk to you guys about it later. But yes, thank you guys so much for having me. I always love hanging out with you guys, and I'm ready to talk about some shows that were canceled way too dang soon.
Yes.
Okay. For the record, here is what we will do. First thing, I believe Tom, it was in the chat when we planned this panel, said, how long is it going to be before somebody mentions Firefly? So if you had under 6 minutes, you are tonight's big Firefly winner.
Hey, wait a minute. I think that's a cheat.
It might be, actually.
So here's what we're going to do for Firefly, because there are literally so many other things.
They're a whole other track, to be honest.
It's a whole other track, too. What I want you guys to do, each of you, is to say something about Firefly in 10 words or less. Gary.
Nathan Fillion is the best. Love River. Go Reavers.
Nice. Shaun?
Great story. Great cast. Great concept. Horrible creator.
Nice. Yes. And Tom.
Jane is my hero. Otherwise, best left where it's at.
Excellent.
Wait,
although I did have to
wait. P.S. Thank you for giving us Christina Hendricks.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I actually had to explain to somebody today because someone was saying something about, oh, that's going to be interesting. I went, define interesting, and they're huh? So I actually had to show them the bit.
True.
Oh God, we're all gonna die.
Okay, but anyway, another track, and there's a million other quickly canceled sci-fi shows, including one that I'm not gonna talk about yet.
Really?
This year is the 40th anniversary, I think. Anyway, Gary, what's your first show on your mental list or physical?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was starting to go with The Prisoner, but since it was planned as a one-season show, I'm going to take it off the table. It was actually planned to be even shorter than the number of episodes that we got. It was originally only Patrick McGowan's idea was like 7, and the BBC said, we'll finance 16. So I am going to go with a wonderful little show that I fell in love with from back in 1988. Starred Ashley Crowe and Parker Stevenson from, people might remember him from the 70s Hardy Boys show. It was called Probe.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Created by Michael J. Wagner and Isaac Asimov. And the second I heard as a kid, even as a kid, I was a Asimov nut. And the second I heard Asimov TV show, I'm in. And it's very much a proto smart guy with problems solves crime. And that's basically the gist of it. It was a mid-season replacement. It got a 2-month run.
Just 2 months.
Yeah, just 2 months. But I remember as a kid, it felt like the show had been on for a long time, and I just kept waiting for it to come back and waiting for it to come back. But Parker Stevenson was this genius-level inventor guy named Austin James who had a lot of quirks because, to be super smart, you have to be super because it was the 80s. And like one of his tics was he would eat frozen peas.
Okay.
He liked them. They calmed him down. But he was so smart that he would come in, do the Sherlock Holmes thing, consulting detective, and using the power of his eidetic memory and science, he would solve crime. And Ashley Crowe was Mickey Castle, basically his Dr. Watson, who was also trying to keep him from no, don't be too weird. Don't freak out the cops.
I've decided myself and Ashley are probably related.
Mm.
I don't know if that's
be.
true. Yeah.
But we're going to go with that.
We'll go with it.
Yes. But yeah, so eccentric millionaire, science driven. It was like catnip for 17-year-old nerd me. And I just loved it and always wanted more. And I think it would do really well today. So if they were to do like a reboot, it's very much, everybody's, everything from Sherlock to what was Elementary to, all the shows now where we have, smart guy solves crime.
It all came from Sherlock Holmes, but
right.
Yeah. And I don't know that I've ever even heard of the show. But that's awesome. And the cool thing about living in the future like we are is you could probably find Probe right now.
Yeah.
Out on the webs. Now, don't find it right now. We'll be done in an hour or so, and then you can watch all the Parker Stevenson you want.
Exactly.
In fact, I recommend it. The man is a handsome devil.
Except Baywatch season 1.
How dare you, Tom? I will not have anyone speaking poorly of Baywatch.
Season 1.
And Shaun, next up.
I don't know, man. Like, you guys are about to throw hands. If you need a minute, like I could you can go on to Tom. It's cool. I'll wait.
Just bring it.
Okay, so if
please do not bring it. Do not bring it. Okay. So one that I've always I'm still mad at this cancellation because they set it up for such a giant cliffhanger.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, and this was a very kind of like ballsy move to do because this was experimental TV. It's the early 90s. It came out in 93, 94. And it was on MTV. And it was when they were doing a lot of their experimental TV. It was called Dead at 21.
Oh, yeah.
Love that show. I was going to bring that one up later.
Nice. Well, I'm glad. I'm sorry I took your pick, but I'm glad I was able to get to it because
that was my third one. So
okay, that's good. Okay, because I loved this show. This was such a wild idea. So the basic premise is that the main character, played by, I always remember his name because he has such a weird last name, Jack Noseworthy. His last name is Noseworthy, and I'm like, and honestly, I'm like, his nose is not really that worthy. It's just like a regular guy's nose, like like I always.
You, sir, are not living up to the Noseworthy name.
You're not living up to the Noseworthy name. But he plays a character named Ed, and basically him and his friend Maria discover that Ed has been part of this government program when they were children to try to create supercomputer. It's almost like a version of what was the experiments they used to do on Americans to try to make telepathic powers and stuff in the 70s.
Oh yeah,
MK
Ultra.
Yeah, MK Ultra. It's kind of like an extension of that, but they were trying to use computer chips. And so these computer chips did not really work, and they just kind of buried the project. And the very quiet secret that nobody's told is that every single person who was in this project dies when they turn 21. And so Ed discovers this on his 20th birthday. And so he's like, oh crap, I basically have to figure this out, because he discovers one of his friends was one of these experiments and they had figured it out, and then they just died like right next to him. So he's basically running away. The government's trying to find him. He starts to find other people with chips, and they ended on this huge cliffhanger, which basically is you can survive your 21st birthday if you can basically create a psychic link with other people who have chips in their heads. So they can basically more or less create like their own internet, and they can share data between each other. So they can like download each other's memories and experiences, but they all go into a coma. So the end of the freaking show is they meet their 21st birthday, they survive, but they're all in comas because they're transferring data to each other. And then it was like to be continued, and those sons of bitches never continued the show. And I was so mad.
Yeah, I remember it was like the guy hunting them. I think he kills himself, or at least he takes pills to maybe fake a death. And then the girlfriend, who is the girlfriend also on Doogie Howser, she gets, I think they imply that she was getting shot. So it was definitely like all cliffhanger. Right. It wasn't Alf cliffhanger bad, but it was still like, we don't know if we're going to get a second season, so we're going to leave it very, very, very likely the show's over.
Right.
Yeah,
really
I remember it was. I mean, it was 30 minutes, and at MTV editing is probably really more like a 20-minute show per episode. But still, I thought it was like pretty tight. Very X-Files inspired.
Yeah, it was definitely. I remember it fondly as well, and it was very much the X-Files is popular. Let's do something like that.
Right,
it was
also
also
MTV editing. Right.
But also MTV, like you said, Shaun, MTV was doing a lot of wild experimental throwing stuff at the wall. Unfortunately, the only thing that really stuck is The Real World, which is still going.
We had the head back then, Max.
Yeah,
There was, the animation side was where they really were going for it, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Aeon Flux.
Aeon Flux was a big one. Basically, anything Liquid TV was pretty, substantial. They even had their own comedy show called The State that lasted.
The State was so good.
But Dead in 21 was the one that I always remember out of that group because it was sci-fi, it was X-Files, it had that grimy, gritty 90s texture, and almost every action sequence was to some popular song of the time, which is why you will never see it collected in DVD and Blu-ray, because getting the rights to all of those songs ain't ever going to happen. There's no way they're ever going to get the rights to all of that. They'll spend too much money just on the rights alone. So,
and we're talking obscure stuff too. I mean,
it's super obscure. You're right. Not obscure songs.
It's a lot of alternative nation, 120 minute stuff that So I mean, it's not like Nirvana, but it's still stuff that there's going to be rights issues for forever.
Yeah. So. Definitely.
Yeah, we need some enterprising person to put this on YouTube or some.
I may have seen certain people selling it at certain convention booths.
Man, does anybody else miss the old bootleg tables? Is it just me?
Yes, I feel like we talk about this every single panel.
So wait, is the bootleg guy not at Dragon Con anymore?
No, they all got kicked out.
They kicked him out. The bootleg guy, the guy with the big giant bootleg booth, because I have my booth. I never leave my area.
Right, they've been kicked out, and the internet put a lot of those guys out of business.
I used to love going to that booth.
Me too.
I mean, there's still a few people with like imported anime, some of the spicy nature. Those guys are still there.
Come back. Bootleg anime guy or not bootleg VHS tape guy, come back to us.
Seriously, that's where I got my entire collection of Tales from the Dark Side, Monsters, Freddy's Nightmares, Friday the 13th, all of those shows. I got the complete editions on DVD back like in the early 2000s when they just weren't making those box sets.
That's where I got The Tick.
Yes, I got The Tick
Cafe, Nightmare Cafe.
Nice.
And a little show called Manimal. Got that on bootleg VHS.
17 minutes, 51
and it's 50 seconds.
Hey, who wins?
I got Daria from one of those guys, and I got a collection of Smurfs, but it was really bad transfer. And of course, the greatest holy grail of all bootleg tape, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh yes.
So Tom, next up. Quickly canceled sci-fi TV show.
Okay, so this one was on in 2007, and unfortunately, it was one of the greatest casualties of the writers' strike they had. Yes, and man, was the show. They put a lot of money in the show. They had such details. I'm sure you all can remember Journeyman.
Oh,
yes,
you know what? You son of a bitch! I thought you were going somewhere else. I
know what you're thinking. No, I'm going for the. I'm going for one that ABC did their thing, but NBC really was like, this was that period where NBC was going for it. So you had Chuck, you had Heroes, and then at 10 o'clock you had Journeyman, which is basically, it's not a Quantum Leap ripoff, but it's a similar premise. So this guy, he's a reporter. He randomly, out of his control, jumps back and forth in time. In this case, he's jumping back and forth. So he's always, so he'll be in the past for a few minutes, change something, and then he'll get pulled back to the present day, find out what he's changed, and then constantly go back and forth trying to solve why he's actually being sent back to fix it. And they put a lot of money. Kevin McKidd was the lead, and this is right after he did Rome, which is another one Rome, I would almost argue, belongs in this discussion too. It did get a second season, but that was a show that was supposed to be like 8 or 5 seasons, depending on who you talk to. But it's like really good. Reed Diamond played his brother, who was a cop, so he was constantly using his brother. It was set in San Francisco. he had a basically kind of like a helper who was his ex-girlfriend, who was also a time traveler. She apparently had traveled far into the future to make sure he married his wife. But like you can't, the details were all over the place. His dad turned out to be some physicist.
And
it's such a fascinating
she had one of my favorite actor names of all time, Moon Bloodgood.
Yes.
But like, it was so weird because, like I said, they put so much effort into the show. I mean, one episode they basically recreated the San Francisco earthquake of '89. I mean, like details. Like there was like you could see he shows up. He knows exactly where he's at too because he's from the area. So he immediately grabs a guy and pulls him over avoids a destruction. Turns out that's the guy he's supposed to save. And then it comes into all the events he's got to do to keep this guy from dying on the rest of the day of the earthquake. And then another episodes where he's like on an airplane, trying to, like constantly these twists and turns. And the other twist is constantly he's trying to have a regular life and he constantly keeps being sucked. Like he and his wife are going on a vacation. They get an airplane. He'd leap or he disappears. They have to go. She gets pulled into security to find out why he disappeared on the plane.
I remember. I think I watched a lot of this.
Yeah, it was on from September to December. Like the last episode was the last one they got shot before the writer strike, and they first said they were going to bring it back, but like a lot of shows, the writer strike, they in some cases they just cut their hands. It got pretty good ratings, but it wasn't getting the same ratings that Chuck and Heroes were getting at the time.
Right.
And of course, remember, Heroes had that, that was the same year Heroes had that, bad cliffhanger because of the writer strike, the plague season, and all that mess. It's kind of became the curse for that show for a while.
Yeah.
It's
even on the most recent reboot, they still can't shake that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Heroes, it's so sad it never got another season.
No, so my first pick.
It never had a second season.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. There's
it was off for a year and a half. Then it had a really cool arc, and then another weird arc, and then it disappeared.
I didn't hear a word that Tom said.
Well, it's funny because Tom was, talking about, the writer strike killing, that show. I thought he was going to go Pushing Daisies.
Yes.
Which I thought was funny because that was like the #1 show of that year, and then it got canceled out, and then everybody forgot about it. And the thing that I always loved about Pushing Daisies, beyond the amazing casting, I mean, just Shai McBride and Lee Pace and freaking Kristen Chenoweth, just amazing cast. But then if you know the backstory behind how Pushing Daisies got made, it was made because of the fact that you were able to, or you were able to trace back how that character was created through a show called Dead Like Me, which was canceled on Showtime. So Dead Like Me is about people who die in really weird ways, and fate basically says, no, you don't get to go to the afterlife yet. You better become a Grim Reaper, and you get to collect souls and send them on their way, and one day you'll get to go on. And the idea was they were going to then introduce the person who could bring people back to life, but they could not actually introduce that character before Dead Like Me got canceled. So they just spun that off into Pushing Daisies, which then subsequently got canceled. It's a weird chain effect for that particular idea, and I would love to see both of those come back.
Yeah, both shows had great fan attempts to get it to say. Like, I remember Pushing Daisies, it was like, lots of people trying to write stuff. For Journeyman, I guess one shows how like corny some of our fans were. They were mailing a Rice-A-Roni to NBC, just like how they did Nuts. Sure, they were sent they sent Nuts to save Jericho, which kind of helped, but I still don't know why they didn't. I mean, the show should not have been canceled. If you look at the ratings it had very good ratings compared to most shows.
Anyway, okay, ratings schmatings.
But seriously, if you're talking about like it's really good to talk about, Joe, for the fact that you're talking about you lost Journeyman, which again, solid remake of Quantum Leap, which was even cooler because the guy disappeared, whereas Sam always has somebody leaping into his body or a thing. They never quite explain all that. They still don't in the new one. They're like they kind of like just nudge it over to the side. You then had of course Pushing Daisies canceled. You had Jericho canceled. There are a ton. Reaper, I believe, was one of the fallouts from that one.
Yeah.
There were so many shows, and most of those shows were doing well, but they weren't doing so well that the studio thought that they could survive, except for Pushing Daisies. But when Pushing Daisies came back, it had dropped so far because people just forgot the plot of the first season. And
not putting a good space, and
it was
and
terrible.
Brian Fuller, poor Brian Fuller, he just had a string of
Wonderful
Falls
only
was
lasted
also,
what, 2 seasons, 3?
I got the third season, but the third season barely aired.
Yeah, and then the fourth season was what everybody's looking forward to because they're finally hitting silence.
Right. They were going to get to Silence of the Lambs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me throw this idea out to the audience and my esteemed panelists. Here is a quarantine panel idea. Why don't we take one, it'll be like a book club thing. We take one quickly canceled sci-fi show. A few of us watch a couple of episodes or 3, or how there may not be 3 of the show in question. And then we'll reconvene and then do a quarantine panel just on the one show.
Okay.
We can do that in the future. Sure.
Yeah.
Just don't pick Pink Lady and Jeff.
Oh, we'll do it. That's the first one. Good job, Tom. Thanks.
All right, I gotta go. Bye.
I was thinking of Top of the Heat, but okay,
Big fan of
my
Jeff.
Mother the car.
My mother
big fan of Jeff, but not so much Pink Lady. Here is my first contribution, and it is called Voyagers. It's not Star Trek Voyager. It's Voyager with the sadly deceased John Eric Hexum and infamously deceased John Eric Hexum and Mino Palucci or Palouse. I don't know. Here is the thing. A very handsome devil and a little kid, they travel through time with a steampunk stopwatch clock thing. And they jump throughout history, and it is amazing.
Yeah, weren't they pirates?
Kind of.
They, let's see.
They were
like waiters. Like, weren't they like going to different time zones and like stealing stuff that people wouldn't miss? Am I remembering that right?
That's
I don't believe so.
Time Bandits.
I might be okay. I might be blending some things.
I think they did. I think they would take mementos, but yeah, I mean,
right, yeah.
I mean, the show's more notorious for what happened than for the actual show.
Sure, yeah.
It was also, if I remember correctly, designed as one of those edutainment shows.
Yes, because in the credits of every episode, Mino said, if you want to learn more about insert name of historical thing that we just covered, take a voyage down to your public library. So, yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what happened, why the show got canceled.
Actually, I do not believe that is why the show got canceled. I think the show was canceled. And then, to my memory, and then our pal, our deceased friend, John Eric Hexum, was on another show after that. And then he had his unfortunate accident with a prop gun. And because they replaced that guy. Well, they replaced him with another action man.
What, Cover Up?
Cover Up. That's it.
That's right. I'm getting that one mixed up. But yeah, rule of thumb: if the gun is said to have blanks and you can confirm it has blanks, doesn't mean you can pretend to play Russian roulette with it. It still has a big blast. So, poor guy shattered his skull.
Good times, but he was replaced by Anthony Hamilton. So if that ever comes up in your TV trivia, then Anthony Hamilton is the replacement.
I don't think it's gonna, but it could.
It might.
It might.
You never know.
You never know. Look, guys. We're just helping. We're just providing goodness. We're providing help. But one of our Facebook users, one of our chatters, said they were correcting errors in history. That was the whole deal with
that feels
Voyager.
Correct. Yeah.
But it was only one season.
That reminds me about Journeyman. I have a really neat bit. The creative show admitted they had a plan. Every person he saved was going to become like a Rube Goldberg at the final episode of each season, where every person he saved they would all suddenly be needed to prevent something that's about to happen in the future. So the idea was like, this person became a doctor. This person's a therapy. Like all these people, this person invented something. Like all these people, he's lives he saved and changed. Like once they got to the present day, they were all that was the point. He needed them all there to stop something else.
That reminds me of another one for my list, which I will do later. But right now, let's go to Gary.
All right. Funnily enough, our good friend of the show and track, Michael Williams, is watching. Hello, Michael. He mentioned earlier the one I actually had teed up next, Brimstone.
Brimstone.
Yes. Another victim of Fox Friday Nights.
Oh, God. Yes.
Yeah. Brimstone was basically a dead police detective. He goes to hell. If I remember correctly, it's because it was a clerical error.
No, he killed the guy that killed.
Or he killed the guy who killed his wife,
and then he got killed. So he was sent to hell as a punishment, and then that was why he got hired to become the cop for hell.
Yeah, basically the devil goes, look, I can't let this get out, but 113 souls escaped hell, and I'm sending you back to Earth to catch them all. And if you catch all of them, I won't let you go to hell.
Yeah, you can come back to life.
Get out of hell free card.
Right, but Gary, who was playing the devil though? Come on.
Yes, that's one of the greatest.
I was going to have to get to this because honestly, I don't think John Glover is bad in anything.
No,
but he is so good in this. He is delicious. He is just charming, just the right amount of smarm. He looks great. It's like I have a hard time choosing between him, Tim Curry, and Viggo from and The Prophecy is Satan of choosing my favorite, the devil. I mean, he's up there.
Yeah, I mean,
or Ray Wise and Reaper. Ray Wise is very good too, but
But seriously though, John Glover. I
always go with John Lovitz. But anyway,
but I mean, like John Glover, he's one of those actors that, like, you've seen him in so many things that every time you see him, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get super campy. You know he can play serious, but you very rarely get to see him play creepy, like really dark. Like you believe that he could delightfully tear up your soul, just like Viggo Mortensen in Prophecy, right? Like. Yeah, you don't think of freaking Aragorn as the guy who's going to eat a Christopher Walken's heart at the end of that movie, and he just with relish, and it's just what the hell?
Yeah, he's in The Prophecy for like 7 minutes and steals the entire movie.
Yeah, he does.
From Christopher freaking Walken.
How did he do that? How do you do that? From Walken?
Yes, Walken's like, I'm walking, and here just comes Viggo Mortensen. He's like, I kill you, and just.
No,
but like no, and he's just gone, But yeah, John Glover was amazing. I like that we can all do a Walken, but we can only do it with one word at a time. If we try to do a full sentence, we'll just
because Walken doesn't do a whole bunch of words altogether,
right? But no, I mean seriously. But after Brimstone, I think the thing that I think of John Glover for most is Gremlins 2, where he's doing his Donald Trump. Like impersonation from like the late 80s, early 90s, where he's like the megalomaniac, real estate developer. But he's also got a little bit of Ted Turner in there too.
Yeah, it's hybrid. It's like if Ted and Donald Trump were put into the fly machine and merged.
right. Jeff Goldblum got in there a little bit, and
Come on,
he's
Tom.
so
okay.
Good.
Next up, Shaun.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just complimenting the Brimstone because Brimstone was such a great freaking pick.
Really, fantastic. I think maybe that's the first show that we watch and do the quarantine panel thing with.
Oh man,
13 episodes of Joy. There should have been 100 more.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We didn't bring up the tattoos too. Every he has all these tattoos on his body. Right. They're every soul, and they burn off once he catches them.
Right. It's such a great idea. Yeah. So the one that I thought got canceled way too soon, it did get a second season. But this is one of those that just it flew too far under the radar for people. It only had 24 episodes because it was an HBO release. It has just a gigantic cast of folks, has Clancy Brown as a man of God who then basically finds out that he is going to be the devil. And it has Nick Stahl, who is essentially just a wandering vagabond during the Dust Bowl Depression era. And this is a show called Carnival.
Yes.
Whoa.
Love that show.
So good.
Curse you, HBO. Them and Rome were both like 6 season commitments. You get 2.
Seriously. And the thing with Carnival is that like they were going for, we want to build a world that has, they were building an American Gothic kind of show, which by the way, another great show that was just cut way too short. But it was almost like them building like an American Gods, American Gothic. We're going to build an entire United States of mythology. We're going to show you where all the monsters are. We're going to show you where all the pitfalls are. And it's going to be surrounded about these ideas called alphas and omegas, which are basically these people who are gifted with powers. And the idea is that alphas are these people who have the touch of God. And they know that the end times are coming when the omega arrives. And the omega will be an alpha, but all alphas are male until the omega, which will be a female. And so that's like a big thing, is that as the show goes along, right as you get to the end of season 2, they reveal who the omega is. And you're like, oh, hell. And that's about the time Clancy Brown just realizes, though he wants to be a man of God, that's not his destiny. And to watch Clancy freaking Brown, go from a pious penitent man to basically one step away from doing his own Kurgan impersonation. It's a lot of fun to watch. It really is.
The twists of all these characters, because there's this idea of like it's a cycle. So one character may think he's the good one, but in fact he may be the evil one, or it could be the evil one is the good one that doesn't know. I mean, there's so many twists. Plus, all these circus freaks are fantastic. There's so many. Michael J. Anderson.
Yes, absolutely. As Samson, that was one of the great things. Like, if you're a big fan of American Horror Stories, what season was that?
Freak Show 4.
Freak Show, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
where they did Freak Show, where they followed this one traveling circus. Just imagine that during the Dust Bowl Depression, but they're also encountering like supernatural towns. Like, there's an entire episode where they stop at a town that's been dead for like 7 years. It was basically during the gold rush. But the myth is, if you go to this town or even pass through it, it takes somebody from you. And so they all know that because they're off the road they're supposed to be on and they pass through this town, one of them is not going to make it out. And sure enough, one of the main characters, one of the characters you did not see coming, is stuck in this town. And they show that person standing in a window, and then a hand comes up and just pulls them into the shadows. And that person is written out of the show. Just done.
Wow.
It's extremely dark. I mean, they have some messed up things.
It was a dark show.
Yeah. HBO, I mean, HBO at this time was really pushing for some more bleak, heavy stuff. And they had pretty much what happened, like, unfortunately, the same thing with Rome, was they had a network head change, and the guy was like, these shows are way too expensive.
Boo.
Yeah, it was like, and admittedly, HBO was like, we got to cut back some costs. All
right, Tom,
All right,
what's on your list?
All right, it's Friday night. It's the mid-90s. There's the X-Files at 9 o'clock, and then we have the 8 o'clock curse time. So you had such great shows like VR5. But
oh my God, VR5, which was at the same time as Dead at 21. Sorry.
Yes. But the one I'm specifically bringing up, imagine you just have this, wherever you go, you have to take a camera with you to take pictures because stuff keeps happening to you because your name is Chance Harper. You have strange luck.
That was on my list. Awesome.
Yes, D.B. Sweeney, really, and like he had the weird. Everywhere he went, stuff constantly happened, and it was always something. He always had the he was lucky, but as he said, it's not good luck or bad luck. It's all luck. Everything would randomly happen to him. So he'd be saving people's lives or actually gouging people to get killed. It was like all this random stuff would always happen. And he was taking all the pictures, and then he would do his Peter Parker bit. He would just take pictures of unusual stuff happening to him, sell it, and that'd be his finances.
Yeah. And, my favorite bit was the fact that he always went to this one diner, and he would only have like $1, but he'd buy a scratcher, and he'd win just enough to pay for his meal. every time.
And he knew this. It was like he's like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like he was proud of it. He just like, okay, yeah, I'm never gonna not have money or food because for some reason my luck keeps me alive.
Yeah.
And of course, my favorite twist was in one episode. He didn't know who he was because he was sole survivor of a plane crash when he was a kid. Then he finally finds out he has a brother, and the brother leaves him a message after his brother disappears to contact this person who can help him, named Fox Mulder.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What?
It was going to do they were going to if they had a season 2, they were going to have a crossover event where Mulder and Scully and him were going to team up.
Can you
And then they
imagine
actually
D.B.
do
Sweeney?
a crossover with Early Edition.
I think it was nothing. It was planned, but didn't happen. I mean, the show had all these ideas, and I think Fox, in another case, were like, "Hey, this show could be really cool. Let's go with it." But that it did get a whole season. So I mean, it was the 8:00 anchor for that Friday.
Wait, did it go a full 24? I thought it was cut
it got
short.
17 episodes, but
well, by today's standards, that's a full season. Yeah,
Yeah,
Back then, that's still a little cut short, but still, yeah.
But
Twice as many as Manimal, but that's fine. I'm not angry.
See, now we need to start measuring shows in Manimals. It ran for
Right.
6.5
How many
Manimals
Manimals did it take for them to get canceled? Like, it's going to be the measure.
If you can make 17, you that's a box set.
Yeah, I mean that's at least a decent, little. I mean, it's like a little thick, DVD case, but that's still a nice little slipcase. Yeah, but D.B. Sweeney, that was when he was just taking wild roles, because that was about the same time he also did Fire in the Sky, wasn't it?
Yep. Fire in the Sky came out basically weeks before the X-Files too. I mean, like, it was he just kind of had I give the guy credit. He always picked really cool projects. Just they weren't that mainstream appealing. But I mean, Strange Like I always thought was a show they should have kept going. They could probably lowered the budget on it and still kept the premise going. The idea is just where he goes, weird stuff happens to him, and he's
cool, man.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing I love about these old shows is that if people would go back and look at these IPs that were developed and there was clearly something there, because folks are so hungry for weird sci-fi horror genre stuff that actually goes along and has an ongoing story these days. Like, why doesn't HBO bring back Carnival? Why doesn't Fox bring back Strangelock? I mean, there are so many chances.
Netflix will bring it back and then cancel it after another one season.
Well, fair enough. But I mean, it's right now, like MTV, even though everybody talks about the fact that Paramount Plus is, or not Paramount Plus, but Paramount Network is riding high on Yellowstone, right? But MTV also owns a big portion of Yellowstone. And it's like they could bring back some of like their scripted dramas or some of their animated stuff that they did back in the 90s and give it a whole nother retread and see what happens.
Yeah,
we got new Beavis and Butthead.
Right, you got the Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah,
I would love to see another season of
King
the
Hill
Max
is
or the
coming back,
Head,
which is tremendous.
The Head, I know fact that they shut that down because the voice of the main guy died of a surprise, kind of shocking cerebral hemorrhage. So
so here we go. Next up, since I've been
Joe just shutting us down, man.
He's seen the time
since he's been in the corner above Gary's left shoulder the entire time. Nightman is my next pick, and this show is not great.
Thank you. I was going to say, like, please don't come out swinging defending the show, man.
Malibu Comics, baby.
That's the thing. It ended up being part of the Ultraverse, which is the infamous spinoff, the infamous indie comic book company that got bought out, and then I almost said shit canned, but hey, I guess I just said
you did. So
Mercy Kill.
I almost said shit canned.
Marvel bought it and then killed it.
Yes. Nightman was part of that, and yet he had his own live action series for 2 whole seasons. And check this out. I just found this out. I didn't remember this weird fact. In one episode, our former president, Mr. Donald Trump, was in an episode of Nightman.
Yep. He's on IMDb.
And
times. But also,
here it comes.
I'm waiting for it. Come on.
Thank you. Get ready, Gary. Get ready, Gary. Also, in one episode, because both shows were created by the same guy, Kenneth Johnson from V, and V, the final battle, etc. Well, no,
Man, you are burying the lead so deep on this.
Just
I am
say it.
super burying the lead because Manimal was on one episode of Nightman.
Yep.
Simon McCorkindale played
That
Manimal
is the only reason
again.
this guy is right here. That's
15 years later. Nightman, by the way, was a superhero jazz saxophonist.
Yes.
That was really literally the whole show. He played the jazz saxophone. And
he could,
Plus, because his last name was, I remember the character's last name was Domino. And I'm like, could we make it any more obvious that he was going to be a jazz player?
Yeah.
Like, I hate it when people go for low-hanging fruit with last names. Oh, this guy's going to be a wolf? Let's give their last name Lupin. Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, was this UPN or WB?
Seriously, right? Like, come on.
It was UPN.
I think it was UPN. And Joe, we also haven't mentioned that his superpower, which I forget how he got it, is that he could telepathically read minds, but only evil thoughts. If you had an evil thought, he would hear it and would have to figure out a way to stop you.
What?
Did he get electrocuted? Wasn't he like on stage and got struck by lightning? Or like
it was
alive?
It was something like that.
Yeah, he was like performing or something like that. There was something electrical. I remember that.
And so he became Jazz Batman. I mean, look at the costume. He's Jazz
Batman.
Batman.
He had his laser eye too. That's why his eyes red.
Yes.
But in one episode, he met the actual Manimal, Simon McCorkindale, and Simon McCorkindale was looking for his daughter, who had been kidnapped by Jack the Ripper, because in the intervening time period between Manimal and the Nightman series, 15 years, Manimal had been pursuing Jack the Ripper through time because he's super awesome. That's why. And by that I mean Manimal is super awesome, not Jack the Ripper.
Right.
I'm not.
And I think that I saw an interview with one of the producers or writers where they were saying, it was a backdoor or pilot to try to revive Manimal.
Yeah.
Which, and
Joe, I thought that's the whole...
what we needed was
Joe, I thought you knew this. I thought that's the whole reason why Darkman was up in the corner. I'm sorry, Nightman, was up in the corner was because you knew that they tried to revive Manimal like back in the 90s by like sliding him in as being in universe with Nightman.
I could not. Okay. Well, I'll let you guys move on. I'm gonna sit here and stew.
Oh man, we just heard Joe on a whole new level, like
a whole brand new. You thought after all this time that was
right? New pain.
Next up, Gary Mitchell.
All right, I want to say real quick before you jump up to the next one. That Kindred the Embrace one, that is actually a really sad story of the main actor, the guy who actually played him, just dying. And they're like, we can't continue the show, so they just canceled it. And that was a bummer.
Kindred the Embraced was a lot of fun, especially if you were a fan of the White Wolf D&D or White Wolf Vampire the Masquerade world. They did some things. There were some things they did not do right, but there were some things they did very right.
Yeah. If they did it today, it'd be amazing.
Was it just me, or did anybody ever at Dragon Con just walk through a room or a hallway and end up in the middle of a Kindred the Embrace LARP?
Oh, I have. Yeah.
That was okay.
I mean, I walked and I've been in some Vampire the Masquerade LARPs. So.
And
it was like all of a sudden it was happening and I was in it. But go ahead.
And our good friend Kellen, who runs the American Sci-Fi Media Track, her husband runs to this day a World of Darkness LARP, which you can play this year.
Awesome.
But yes, I am sticking though with the 80s for my next pick. I've yet to pick anything outside that decade. And it was a wonderful little sci-fi series. It was sort of aimed at kids, but it was written at a much higher level than just standard kiddie fare. It had one of the wildest toy tie-ins ever done, and that is Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future.
Yes.
J. Michael Straczynski was behind it, the guy who would go on to do Babylon 5. He's behind He-Man. He's the brain behind he was a writer on Ghostbusters, the animated series, a hell of a sci-fi creator. And Captain Power was this basically kid version of the Terminator. The war between humans and robots happens, and the humans get nuked.
Yes.
And Captain Power and his allies have these power suits to try to fight Lord Dread, the Overmind, the computer Overmind, fighting for freedom. And the show, like I said, was complex. It had deep characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the first season ends on a cliffhanger where Lord Dread's found out where Captain Power's base is, sends things in to go blow it up. It's Christmas. And when Lord Dread is doing a full conversion to get rid of the last of his organic parts, and when the main robot bad guy gets into the base, one of the characters sacrifices her life and dies, blowing the place up to take it out and save everybody else.
That's some Transformers the movie stuff right there. What the heck?
Yeah.
The thing that always made me mad about Captain Power, though, is I didn't get it syndicated in my town. So the only time I got to see it was when I got the VHS tapes that came with the toys. So I only had the 2 toys. I had Captain Power, and I had one of the other backup, characters. And that was cool because I don't know if you remember, but the actual broadcast would have an infrared blink or something.
Yes. That was the toy tie-in.
Right, that was the toy tie-in where you actually had to shoot at the TV. And you could get a score, and if you weren't careful, your gun would get hit with the infrared back, and that would be the end of the toy would actually pop out. It was a really cool idea, but I only ever saw 3 episodes. I never got to see the whole thing, and that always kind of bummed me out.
Yeah, it had 8 episodes. It was a real short run, but it was really
allegedly,
cool.
And I've not tested this fact. But allegedly, even if you get the bootleg VHS tapes of Captain Power, the toy still works. You can still zap the robots.
I would imagine you would, because it's probably just a light pattern that it's looking for or something.
Yeah, it's basically a light gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was saying, it's not episodic. There is a storyline that runs through the whole thing. If you look on YouTube, someone did edit the whole series down to a 2-hour movie.
Ooh.
If you just
without all the shooting parts,
story. Yeah. But and it had some primitive CGI for some of the robot creatures. But yeah, I mean, it's solid piece of sci-fi.
And check out J. Michael Straczynski's autobiography, because he has a whole chapter about Captain Power. And of course, there's other stuff too in that book about how he found out that his dad was a Nazi. And also Captain Power. But he also found out his dad was a Nazi.
Man, you segued hard.
Hard segue.
That was
wow. Hard segue Crowe. That is my nickname. So we're almost about to run out of time here. So let's do kind of a lightning round. If you have a list, just throw out a name and we'll kind of go through it pretty fast.
Well, let's start with Tom.
Yeah,
he was up next.
Yeah. So this one's a great animated series from the 80s. Imagine it's Star Wars, but instead of the Empire, it's plant monsters. We're talking and JC and the Wheeled Warriors.
Nice,
including Herkstorm. Sailor, not Han Solo.
And that's also another Straczynski.
Talks exactly like it.
And that's it's also a Straczynski show too, isn't it?
Yes.
Straczynski did everything in the 80s as far as cartoons.
Yeah.
I mean, he was everywhere. He did He-Man, he did G.I. Joe, he did he was all over the place.
Oh yeah.
If it was animated in the 80s, Straczynski was at least a writer for it, if not a co-creator or one of their main plotters. That man went, but Jason the Wheeled Warriors, man, that was a crazy one. Well, I always say Jace because that's how it's in my head, because I never got a chance to hear them say his name out loud because I was always singing the song and then I was playing with my toys while it was on the background. That and Spiral Zone. I remember those two.
Spiral Zone was.
Do you remember Spiral Zone where you couldn't go to certain areas or you get the weird?
That was another one that was surprisingly dark for a kid's show.
I remember both of those, and I would get both of those toys, and I would have crossovers in my mind of Wheeled Warriors versus Spiral Zone and stuff like that. And crazy.
Jason the Wheeled Warriors was on at 6:30 in the morning on weekdays.
Yes.
For me.
I remember I'd watch it right before I went to school.
Yeah.
The final episode aired, actually, it was on my birthday, Ride Luck, and I was so excited. There's like, yes! And then I realized, there's open-ended. Well, there'll be another season. Nope, there wasn't another season. 65 episodes, though. Imagine the times when you had 65 episodes runs, 5 days a week.
Episodes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was the syndicated 1 year, 5 days a week for kids. That basically gave you 2 months and change of
that's
a show.
Let's see, that's 5, 6. That's like 7 Manimals.
Yeah.
Anyway, Gary, hit me with your.
I am going to hit this one also from Michael Williams again. Brisco County Jr. Best horse on television. Sorry, suck it, Trigger.
Yeah. And only one season. It seems like
only one season.
Don't touch Pete's piece.
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful steampunk time travel stuff. I mean, and it's also the show that convinced Bruce Campbell to stop promoting shows. He tells the story that every time he would get a TV series, he would go and fly all around the country, do all the morning shows, pimp the show, try to get people to watch it. Brisco County, was like the 5th or 6th time he'd done that, and it only went the one season. And so he went, that's it, I'm done. I'm not promoting the shows anymore. He gets the role on Bird Notice as Sam Axe. He does like 2 show promotions because it was local, and that show goes for 7 seasons. He's like, okay, so that's it. I don't promote the show, and it's a success.
I mean, it works out pretty well for him. I mean, Ash versus Evil Dead went a fair amount, So I mean, but speaking of Ash, though, I always had my own little private fan fiction that Brisco County Jr. actually was Ash, and I forgot his partner's name.
Lord Bowler.
Bowler. And I always thought that Bowler was actually shown off hiding from Bruce Leroy Green from The Last Dragon. So in my own fan fiction, it's shown off, and Ash Williams time traveled to the Old West, and they have steampunk technology because they actually have some concept of the future.
It's complete too long.
Yeah,
that's so great.
But it had Billy Drago as one of the main villains. John Aston was in it as a crazy professor, inventor type. I mean, it was a fun show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, now this was actually a while ago, the last time I checked, but Brisco County Jr. is streaming somewhere. Now, that reminds me, though, I meant to say earlier, Voyagers is on Amazon Prime right now.
Oh,
well, there you go.
And the thing is, just Google any of the shows we've mentioned, and they're probably out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably on Freevee,
or Freevee, or Tubi,
or Tubi,
yeah.
Tubi, our best friend. Please be our sponsor, Tubi.
Oh man, right?
Seriously.
I mean, didn't HBO just drop like Westworld on them or something?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, seriously, I can't even not even on like regular HBO watch Westworld anymore. No, you got to go to like Tubi. It's like, okay,
gotta go to Tubi. Which weirdly enough is where I watched the original Westworld like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
With James Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Williams, I'm assuming it's Michael Williams, feels obligated to mention Cop Rock.
He does. Because he has that wonderful podcast. Let's watch Cop Rock.
Yes, find that podcast when
he
goes through every episode of Cop Rock.
You guys 8, something like that.
Did it
6 aired, 8 were made. Just like Hull High, there were only 3 episodes aired.
Yeah, I was like, I know that they didn't air all the episodes. I know there are unaired episodes. But that Cop Rock, like, it's not my pick. I'm because I still have my pick. That is a show. If you've never seen it, people, go watch it on YouTube. It is absolutely bonkers. They will talk about the darkest stuff. They will talk about, kids getting, hooked on various drugs and or murder and all this stuff. And like straight up, they will break up into song like Glee. And like they go hard on this show. It is
friend of the show, Matricula, wonderful woman, actually did a folk song that is from the show song of a guy who sells black market babies, and the song is "Baby Merchant Kids for," and it's just
I will put a link to that in the show notes.
I remember the Baby Merchant episode. I remember that one. Yes.
Shaun, hit us with your last one.
Last one, and for me, it is the greatest foul of Fox TV's existence of all time. Canceled after one season. It was their highest rated show, but they could cancel it and make 4 other shows for the same price of it. In its inaugural season, it was beating everybody, and it was beating them by a long shot, but it was just too damn expensive. And the president of Fox TV, who left just a couple years later, said it was the biggest mistake of his career canceling the show. Of course, I'm talking about the amazing, the awesome, the fantastic Alien Nation.
Yep.
Yes. So
we've done several panels in live action about this show and movie.
Because I beg you to, and you guys are very nice enough to give me the 10 o'clock slot, and then I will have me and my 15 friends who like the show will sit in this room and we will talk about Alien Nation for an hour.
It's 16 because I'm included, but no, it's true. This show is just, there's so much going on.
Yes.
In Alien Nation. The world building, the everything about Alien Nation is please check that show out.
Yeah,
please.
It's so good.
Don't play any death games with them.
Yeah, right. No, but seriously, like, I mean, if you don't know, the basic concept is in their world, I think it's 1990 when the ship crashes. There's a giant UFO, something out of V, just massive UFO basically shows up in the deserts outside of California. And there are 50,000, 100,000.
There's like
a lot.
There's a certain number.
Yeah, there's many tens of thousands of these people called the Tanktonese, who are essentially humanoids that have bald heads with spots on them, who can't get home. They can't access the ship. The ship basically is kind of in lockdown mode, and they have nowhere to go. So they have to immigrate to America. So it becomes the great immigration story of racism. It becomes a great story of what happens when you're a first-generation immigrant and people don't understand your culture. How do you integrate into society? It covers all the questions that people would love to ask. And I was actually talking about this last night, just personally in Facebook. Sci-fi and genre in general allows us to ask the questions and talk about the thing that we don't want to talk about. And give us the ability to have a connective tissue so then we can actually understand and have empathy for our fellow humans that sit on this crazy rock that is hurtling through the cosmos of space. And Alien Nation is one of those great perennial ideas that I guarantee you, if you restarted it and just brought it back, boom, it would be a massive hit, because the metaphor of just, I'm here, I can't go anywhere, you do not tolerate me because you do not know me, but I have to find a way to live with you. That is never going to be a subject that will not be important to humanity.
Shaun, have you seen this? I'm guessing you have, but I want to tell you, I want to tell everybody else, there is a comic book series called Planet of the Apes versus Alien Nation.
I have.
Okay, good. So it's not just me. I think me and you are the only two that bought it. But
okay, I've got to find this now.
Yes, you do.
It's called Ape Nation.
Hey,
I'm not making that up.
Not even making it up.
Hey, I read and really enjoyed the Star Trek Planet of the Apes crossover.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tremendous.
They did. That was really.
So anyway,
really
let's
good.
do this. Everybody, let's wrap this thing up. And Shaun, tell
Yes.
everybody where you can be found on the interwebs or in life, I guess.
Right. Well, of course, if you want to see me in person, you can find me and my wife running our Pop Cycled Baubles booth. We will be at Heroes Con this coming June. Be at a couple other places, but if you don't know where to find us, you can always go to facebook.com/popcycled. And if you want to see me making cool artwork, I've been doing a lot of painting lately, as these guys know. You can follow me on Instagram or on Twitter at NumaZ. And I'd love to see you. And my only request is, if you do go and follow me, or if you are a person who checks out my artwork, make sure to actually type a response, because I don't care about the algorithm. It actually gives me good feedback, so I know, like, when I screw up a guy's forehead or something, and then I can actually fix my artwork and make it look better. So help me help me.
And Tom.
Okay, you can check out my podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy Movie Podcast. We just posted a new episode today on Hard Target. We just finished our 80s action series. So we've covered all some great 80s ones, like First Blood Part 2, Lethal Weapon 2, Die Hard, Commando, and also just because I wanted to get a Clint Eastwood action when we did Every Which Way You Can. Because he had to have the longest fist fight in history. But yes. We just wrapped that one up. I'm bummed we didn't have time to cover Homeboys in Outer Space or The Lone Gunman, but maybe next time. But thanks for letting me on, guys.
Dark Angel, yeah.
Dark Angel's another one.
Some of these shows, one thing I was going to do is, I think there's Tom. There goes Tom.
Yeah, Tom said he had to go.
One of the things I was going to do is we were going to talk about just shows you thought were quickly canceled but got a second season or a third season, like Cleopatra 2525.
Oh my Lord!
But anyway,
early edition. I would have sworn it only had one season. It had like
that's
4.
Right.
Yeah, no. But that's like why I didn't bring up like Farscape, because Farscape had 4 seasons and a miniseries, and it was still canceled too soon, in my opinion.
Indeed.
I mean, like that's why I'm just like, because honestly, 2 seasons or less, I think, is canceled too soon.
Indeed.
Like if you make it 2 seasons, because like we were talking about Pushing Daisies, they technically had 2 seasons, but they only, I think, had 30 episodes altogether, because they had like a main season and they got like 6 or 7 more, and then they got canceled because they didn't get their pickup. So like if you can make it past 2 seasons, I don't think you're canceled too soon, which is why like I can't count Fringe, which I think should have gone on for like 157 seasons, or even what was it, Eureka. Fantastic show.
Oh my gosh, Eureka. We just rewatched that like during COVID. We watched the whole thing start to finish.
So good. But it went what, 5-6 years?
5 or 6 at least.
4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah, 4 or 5. So I mean, that's a pretty good run. I mean, that is pretty good. So but the 1 season shows or the 2 season shows, they murder me, because sometimes I get so invested and then I'm just stripped because I'm like, oh.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Let me read a quote from a learned individual, and here's the quote. Fans of quickly canceled shows are a rare breed. They gain a sense of ownership that other fans do not, because until relatively recently, nobody could have physical ownership of shows until some shows got on DVD. I feel sad for fans. I'm still quoting. I feel sad for fans of shows that last a long time. Their downside is that many shows' quality peaks and valleys from season to season. They argue that one season is superior to another, or that the show, quote, jumped the shark. Fans of quickly canceled shows, though, have it easy. There are no other seasons.
Fair enough.
And Manimal literally is the shark. And that author, that learned individual, is me in the magazine Retrofied, where I did an article about Manimal. And
you know what? I'm gonna have to get something published in that article, which is going to tell you that Automan is superior to Manimal, and you and I are going to have an Automan.
Oh, but no, because Automan lasted 2 whole Manimals.
Guys, thank you, Gary. You didn't tell people where you were. You could be found.
You can find me on the Twitter here, sort of. I've kind of left it ever since it got musky. But you can still find me there. Contact me as part of our Facebook group, because we have a Facebook group. And every other Tuesday on my lovely horror podcast, a podcast of Amontillado, which this gentleman has been on. And one day, Joe, I will have you on to talk about something spooky. And then put you behind the wall.
You've been waiting on that for 10 years.
He just wants to get the co-director title out the way. He just wants to be director. So if we see that Joe is missing one day, it's because he got put into the wall, and we need to go down into the cellar and ask to see his finest.
See, now I have to stay co-director forever, because if I ever take director, then I become suspect number 1.
By the way, Joe, I expect to get a Christmas card every year now, okay? Because I just saved you from like Gary visiting you in the middle of the night. So holiday card every year, buddy.
Oh, what's happening? Shaun and Tom, who had to leave us. Gary, thank you very much. I believe our next quarantine panel is going to be our annual Battle of the Fictional Bands.
Yes.
And that is going to happen in March.
Yes, that will be in March. We haven't picked a cool name for it yet.
We're working on
I'm
it.
thinking of pickups and put downs.
We'll figure it out. We'll work on that. But that is one of the most fun things we do every single year. We do it here in quarantine and also in live action at DragonCon. So it's going to be a blast. Bring your favorite fictional bands and we'll put them in a tournament. We'll see who's the best one. And I believe the reigning champ from last year was Bill and Ted. Was Wild Stallions, maybe?
Wild Stallions, I think, finally got the cup at the live show.
At the live show because Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem wasn't allowed because they won like 4 times in a row.
That's
which,
true.
by the way, just so you know, I finished almost the design for that epic run that we did. I just need the band name so I could finally drop them in and we can actually fight because you guys wanted to do a t-shirt.
We want that t-shirt.
And because we know Electric Teeth won, the surround I made it look like it's from the 60s. The surrounding part is Mr. Teeth and his teeth make the border.
Perfect.
And so then it's all the sub bands underneath. So
I will send you those names.
Send me the names. I don't know if you guys wanted to do like a thing where people could like if you guys want to throw it up on the American Sci-Fi Classics, like where you can do like a fundraiser and people can buy like a poster of it or something.
Oh yeah.
It'll be high res enough where they can do whatever they want. You guys can do whatever you want to for it. So yeah.
We will definitely be into selling those for the DragonCon charity this year.
And then I guess I will do another one when you guys have a winner for March. I mean, I'll be there. I'll be fighting my fight, for whoever the fictional bands are. But I'll make a second poster. So there you go.
So join us then when Gary Mitchell will say,
"Look, if Animal doesn't have to wear pants, neither do I."
That's a fair comment.
Look, here's the thing. Once again, the Classics track leads the way. Electric Mayhem wins Battle of the Bands, and all of a sudden, Animal is in a nationwide TV commercial.
I just watched the Muppet movie again like 2 weeks ago, and I forgot that Animal became the size of a kaiju at the end of that movie. And I about laughed my balls. He's just and I lost it. I was like, oh my god, that movie is so good. Jim Henson, we miss you, dude. Like, you've been gone so long. Still, sorry, we're getting off topic.
Yeah,
love it.
It's the American Sci-Fi Classics track. We determine the topics.
Fair
That's
enough.
all.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hanging with us. We will be back soon. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. And if your eyeballs are tired, we've got an audio version, which we'll link to on the show notes and on our Facebook page. So you can just listen to it while you're working or, speaking to your family. You could just be listening to us the whole time.
Or, hey, think of this as your new ASMR for going to sleep. Lay down. You need to lay down. Put your head on the pillow and lay down. And think of Sequest.
Lay down, Animal, lay down.
Guys, thank you very much. We love you. Get your colonoscopies. We will see you
We will not broadcast that.
No, that's not going to be on the quarantine panel. But thank you guys very, very much. We love you. We will see you soon. Gary, Tom, Shaun, thank you. Whoa. I didn't hit the button.
You got to hit the button. Press the button, Joe.
You have to hit the button.